Okay, wait for a while. Okay, so based on the given topic related to trends in human resource management, no, we are all aware that in the last decades brought an avalanche of change to the HR industry, the rise of AI, no, to the growth of gig economy, so the increased push towards greater diversity, and most recently, global pandemic that has altered a reality of million redefine where and how work gets done. So that begs of questions what stores the future of the industry. Uh, of course, we need to consider that nearly 60% employees want to work remote full-time after the pandemic, according to one survey. So technology adoption and deployment is a priority as companies seek to unify dispersed digital-first workforces. Two-thirds of employees value when their feedback is heard and acted on. At in the face of mental health adversity, so companies respond by providing resources, cutting costs, and taking other measures to support well-being. So data will be the new currency and a core part of the human resource operates in the coming years. So ensuring employees have the skills they need is a top priority among business leaders. So to give us more about the trends of human resource management, yes, Madam Cherry, go ahead.
Thank you, po, sir. So, my topic is the trends in human resource management. So, nung nakita ko po yung topic ko, medyo hindi ko gaano mag-grasp kung paano ko siya i-outline since ever since dahil nasa technical bureau ko kami or division kapag napag-uusapan ang HRM para ang iniisip mo lang dyan ay pupunta ka doon sa HR if you need some things related halimbawa kung gusto mo mag-leave, you want to avail sa Magna Carta benefits or kailangan mong mag-loan to the IFS activity. So, ang naging approach ko ay magiging ano po siya, medyo general para hindi gaanong focus lang on public but may halong from the private perspective. So yung presentation outline ay background, a very short background lang, then milestone in the development of HRM, then the recent trends in HRM, and trends in HRM after pandemic. Okay, so as a background, so, before, ang tawag daw sa HRM ay personnel administration. So, emerged as a clearly defined field in the 1920s, at least in the US. Largely concerned with the technical aspects of hiring, evaluating, training, and compensating employees. Then later, nag-emerge yung term na human resource management, and this was developed in response to the substantial increase in competitive pressures as a result of such factors as globalization, deregulation, and rapid technological change. Then human resource is a term having been coined in the 1960s, and the HRM became commonly used since the 1990s. So for the milestone in the development of HRM, tinitingnan ko yung milestone kasi para maintindihan ko or mag-grasp ko later kung paano ko i-represent yung trends. So based dito sa nakita kong article, the milestone in the development of HRM, from 1890 to 1910, Taylor advocates scientific selection of workers based on qualifications, and also argues for incentive-based compensation system to motivate employees. So at this time, ito yung tinatawag nating period of industrial welfare. So lumalaki yung mga companies, so hindi lang nagpo-focus on production, but also on the planning, scheduling, and staffing. So dito sa time na to na-advocate niya yung fixed rate pagdating sa salary or sa wage. Although, until now, meron pa rin sa ating private sector na ginagamit yung fixed rate na system. especially sa ating mga processing plants. Okay, then from 1910 to 1930, many companies established departments devoted to maintaining the welfare of workers. So the discipline of industrial psychology begins to develop, which leads to advancements in employment and testing and selection. So in 1921, the National Institute of Psychologists established and published results of studies and selection tasks, interviewing techniques and training methods. So from 1930 to 1945, the interpretation of the Hawthorne studies begins to have an impact on management, thought, and practice. Greater emphasis is placed on the social and information aspects of the workplace, affecting worker productivity. Increasing the job satisfaction of workers is cited as a means to increase their productivity. The personnel department had to be established with trained staff. So at this time, meron ng focus on recruitment and selection, and later on training, improving morale and motivation, discipline, health and safety, joint consultation, and wage policies. Then 1945 to 1965 in the US, a tremendous surge in union membership between 1935 and 1950 leads to a greater emphasis on collective bargaining and labor relations within personnel management. So compensation and benefits administration also increased in importance as unions negotiate paid vacations, paid holidays, and insurance coverage. And then 1965 to 1985, ito na yung the civil rights movement in the US reaches its apex with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So nandyan na yung ating mga tinatawag na equal employment opportunity and affirmative action became key human resource management. And then in the 1970s, employment legislation nag-increase na. So yung ating mga employment standards, labor relations, kasama na yung health and safety ay masyado na rin na-incorporate or nakaka-consider. And then from 1985 to the present, three trends dramatically impact HRM. So una, increased diversity of the labor force. So ang HRM, instead na mag-focus on equal employment opportunity na lang, nagpo-focus na rin siya on managing diversity in terms of age, gender, race, and ethnicity. And then the second trend is globalization and technological revolution. So nagkaroon ng dramatic change in transportation, communication, and labor market. So yung role din ng HRM ay nag-a-adjust. And then the last is HRM as a strategic function. So HRM concerns and concepts must be integrated into the overall strategic planning of the organization in order to cope with the rapid change. So medyo nagiging mas holistic na yung approach ng HRM. And then from 1990s, ito na yung time of re-engineering. Mas nagiging common ang term ginagamit ay human resource management. And then sa 2000, dahil masyado na-revolutionize yung ating information technology since the 1990s pa, so may growth na in the use of internet. That's why the role of HRM also changes. So yung recent trends in HRM, ito na po yun. So ngayon, first is the globalization and its implications. So the organization now must train individuals to meet the challenge of globalization. So the HR department needs to ensure that the appropriate mix of employees in terms of knowledge, skills, and cultural adaptability is available to handle global assignments. So for example, sa BFAR, meron tayong mga international commitments, lalo na yung ating, kung meron tayong ipaglalaban in terms of our product standards, so kailangan meron tayong mga personnel na capable how to represent and how to negotiate para yung ating mga standards ay posibleng ma-accept sa international standards. Okay, for the workforce diversity, ito na ngayon sa HRM, kinakailangan na nila ng participative approach. So dito sinasabi, HRM must train people of different age groups to effectively manage and to deal with each other para medyo maiwasan natin yung conflict sa office kapag ganito na medyo diverse na yung ating workforce. And then for the employee expectations, anticipate and manage turnover through human resource planning, training schemes, followed by appropriate compensation packages. So kasi ngayon, alam natin ang workers ay masyado na silang educated, well-informed. So, ang expectation din nila kapag, lalo na sila, kapag sila ay well-trained, ay tataasan din natin yung kanilang compensation. Otherwise, magkakaroon tayo ng problema sa turnover kasi pwede silang lilipat. Kumbaga, mas madali na ngayong lumipat to other agencies kapag medyo trained ka na or marami ka ng knowledge on a specific area. Okay, then another trend is the changing skill requirements. So devise suitable training and short-term programs to bridge the skill gaps and deficiencies. Okay, so lalo na ngayon sa pandemic, medyo at with the information technology revolution, medyo yung ating mga kumbaga mga aging na workforce medyo nag-a-adapt ngayon kung paano nila masusundan yung mga changes, lalo na halimbawa yung mga bagong application na ginagamit ngayon during the pandemic. So, ang ating HR naman, napapansin natin, hindi rin sila nagpapahuli. Kumbaga, with the BFAR, ang napapansin ko ay may mga trainings din na sinasandak kung paano tayo makaka-upgrade sa ating sarili when it comes to these new trends. And then for the corporate downsizing, HRM people must ensure that proper communication must take place during this time. So nauuso ngayon yung tinatawag natin na rationalization sa government or downsizing, nagka-cut tayo ng ating mga job order employees. So ang role naman ngayon ng HRM ay dapat ma-properly communicate ito sa ating mga tao. Kasi for the regular employees, kapag nagkaroon ng rationalization sa government, medyo hindi gaanong problema dahil merong mga packages na hinahanda ang government or nililipat sila to other agencies. So yung downsizing ay medyo mas concern kapag ang ating staff ay yung mga job orders. So yun yung kailangan i-prepare natin. And then for the continuous improvement programs, ito din yung isang bagong trend ngayon, clear and extensive communications of why the change will occur, what is to be expected, and what effect it will have on employees. So ngayon, makikita natin, based dito sa continuous improvement programs, napapansin natin yung mga government nag-a-apply ng mga, or nagpapa-accredit for quality management system. So kailangan maging clear ito sa mga employees, otherwise, magre-react lang sila in a negative way. So kailangan maintindihan nila ano yung role at ano yung magiging expected output nitong mga improvement programs na ating ini-implement. And next trend is the re-engineering work process for improved productivity. For re-engineering to generate its benefits, HRM needs to offer skill training to its employees. Sa re-engineering, marami na tayong pagbabago, pwedeng magkakaroon ng multitasking sa company. So, kailangan bago yan na-introduce, nag-o-offer na ng mga capacity buildings yung ating HRM. And next is, nauuso ngayon kahit sa government, itong contingent workforce, hired for shorter periods of time. Ang tawag natin dito ay inaano natin sila minsan as consultants. Sinahire natin sila as consultants kasi minsan may mga kailangang mga knowledge or expertise na hindi na gaanong nare-retain sa bureau. Kasi parang nawawala yung specialization. So ngayon, nauuso na din minsan sa government yung nag-hire tayo ng mga consultant. So ang role lang ng HR ay masiguro na yung ating mga hinahire for shorter periods of time ay mas sinisiguro natin na talagang makakatulong sila sa pag-improve ng ating process. And then for the mass customization, different group of employees receive different employment arrangements. Kasi makikita natin dito sa mass customization, more on nasa private sector, so to deliver modified goods and products to fulfill the needs of individual customers. However, sa public sector, meron din tayong mga tinatawag na mass customization. So, kanya-kanyang stakeholders, may ina-expect sila na different services among the different divisions sa bureau or kahit within the divisions sa different sections. So, makikita natin ngayon, lalo na sa pandemic, yung ating mga frontliners, halimbawa, ay halos hindi sila pwedeng work from home arrangement na medyo matagal. Pero yung ating mga hindi frontline workers, mas pwede silang mas matagal na mag-work from home arrangement dahil iba yung kanilang service na ina-expect ng stakeholders sa kanila. Okay, then the centralized work sites. So HR challenge pagdating sa trend na ito ay revolves around training managers to establish and ensure work quality and on-time completion. So sa decentralized work sites, ang pinaka-challenge din dito is on the monitoring. Lalo na for halimbawa for the bureau, meron tayong tinatawag na provincial fishery officers, meron tayong mga tao sa field, mga fisheries, livelihood development technicians. So, however, dahil din sa bagong trend ngayon ng information technology, medyo mas madali na rin tayong makipag-communicate sa ating mga tao sa field. And next is the employee involvement. So delegation, participative management, work teams, goal setting, employee training, and empowering of employees. Para masiguro na sila ay ma-feel nila na sila ay significant pa sa ating organization. So yan yung employee involvement. Then for the technology, ito yung pinaka medyo na-observe natin ngayon sa ating HRM. Yung HRM information system. So karamihan, marami na tayong mga documents ngayon na maa-access na natin siya online or maa-update na natin siya online. Halimbawa, yung ating PDS, instead na magsasubmit tayo ng hard copy every year, ngayon pwede na natin siyang i-update online. Okay. Next, health and safety. So makikita natin dito sa health and safety for the private sector, yung HRM has shifted to providing health services to staff for the private sector. But for the public sector kasi, yung health and safety, pwedeng i-delegate na nito ng HRM ang monitoring sa mga supervisors. Pero yung tulad dati, halimbawa, sinisiguro ng HR or pinapacilitate nila na magkakaroon ng bawat empleyado ng health card. Pero sadly, lately, medyo nag-iba yung system ng government kasi may mga guidelines na dapat sundin. So medyo for us sa bureau, I don't know sa ibang bureau, nawala muna yung aming healthcare na yung card namin ng health card unless ikaw mismo ang kusa na magbabayad. Kasi before, ano siya, parang sino-shoulder siya ng aming office. Then family work-life balance, HRM have to work it out that every employee's family to some extent is a happy one. So sa government kasi, kumbaga nakalagay na to sa aming mga in the form of our leave credits, yung aming mga bonuses para ma-ensure na may time kami, and then may konting extra for the needs and wants ng family. Pero sa private sector, may time talaga sila na parang every year meron silang gathering ng kanilang employees kasama yung family, may mga outing sila at may mga benefits din sila ang binibigay. And then lastly, yung dahil masyado na tayo on information technology, naka-online yung ating mga ibang documents. So napaka-importanting trend yung paano ma-maintain ng HRM, yung confidentiality ng ating mga information. Although karamihan naman sa information related to services ng public sector ay open naman. sa topic. Okay, then for the trends in HRM after pandemic, kasi yung mga trends na pinag-uusapan natin, kumbaga, yun ay pinag-iisipan or na conceptualized before the pandemic. So after pandemic, may mga changes na posibleng nakita, kaya ito yung mga posibleng trends ng HRM after pandemic. So the first is restructuring ng workplace. So new work ecosystem. Pwedeng kailangan ang office natin ay medyo ma-ensure na yung social distancing at hindi gaanong maraming tao in ang mag-report in a day. Then, masusunod natin yung mga system to implement new health protocols na manggagaling din sa HRM. Based din doon sa discussion na manggagaling may pinagbabasihan tayo ng mga regulations from the civil service. Then more technology and recruitment and selection. So napapansin natin ngayon, ang application, meron na tayong application tracking system. So kung pag nag-apply tayo, email na lang. Although hindi pa ako nakapag-try for this time for this application system, pero mapapansin mo yung mga kasamahan mo, pag nag-apply sila, yung mga interview nila ay video interview na ngayon. And then for more intrinsic motivation, engagement, sense of belonging, and well-being activities are needed. So dito ngayon papasok ang very crucial role ngayon ito ng ating HR. Kailangan kasi natin yung mga tao na nag-work from home ay ma-feel din nila o ma-motivate pa rin sila na kung ano yung ang dapat nilang gawin kapag face-to-face ay ganun pa rin yung kanilang energy or devotion pagdating sa kahit nasa naka-work from home setting sila. And then, next is remote working after the pandemic. So, dapat lang, ang sinisiguro ng HR dito ay may work-life balance pa rin ang mga employee. Kasi baka, bago kasi ito sa karamihan sa atin yung remote working, kapag nasa bahay ka, hindi maiiwasan. Meron kang mga personal na ginagawa, lalo na halimbawa kapag ikaw ay mother or father na pag nasa bahay ka, kailangan mo rin magluto, mapipilitan ka kasi nandyan yung mga anak mo, ano lang din sa bahay. So kailangan ma-revisit ito, paano yung work-life balance ng isang empleyado na may iba ding ginagampanan na mga tungkulin habang nasa bahay siya. And then the next is the reskilling and retraining towards new competencies and new talents, global and virtual mobility and its mental consequences, communicating and enhancing social ties. So itong tatlo na ito, ang kailangan ng HR intervention nito ay really on the capacity building ng ating mga employees. So, yan lang po, sir. Thank you very much.